ahead and get started with this month's April AMA, which is Pump Up the Jam. And we're here to talk about all things joint annual meeting, which will be held in Grand Rapids this year in June. So we're excited to have you all here tonight. We're going to talk about scholarships a little bit too. We are happy to be joined with Kim Von Ahsen, our president-elect of ASCLS, Stephanie Mabry, the resident Michigan panelist, as well as Dana Vaughan, who is also a Michigan panelist and actually teaches up near Grand Rapids. Well, I guess you guys actually have a campus downtown now, unlike the old days. So you guys have a campus downtown. And then we also have Karrie Hovis, who is joining us as the annual meeting steering committee chair. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Dana, I'll go ahead and let you kick it off, and you can add in anything that I missed that's that's related to JAM or Grand Rapids or anything fun.
Great. So yeah, my name is Dana Vaughan. I'm faculty at GVSU, Grand Valley State University's Medical Lab Science program. And we are located right downtown in Grand Rapids, so very close proximity to the meeting. I'm really excited that the meeting is going to be in Grand Rapids this year. I think it was a great choice for a location. It just has everything, food, culture. It's known as Beer City, so that's fun for some. There's a lot of art. I mean, you can just walk around and see art, lots of museums right there. So right by Amway, there's a ton to walk and do and see. I'll let the other panelists introduce themselves, and then I can talk more and more. Anything you want to know about Grand Rapids or the area.
Kim, why don't you go ahead and go next? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
I have a new computer, so it's fun. Right, Karrie? We've never had a new computer while trying to run a meeting. So yeah, I'm Kim Von Ahsen. I'm the president-elect of ASCLS. I am actually a resident of Des Moines, Iowa, and it's a little crazy right now. So hopefully you don't pick up on all the cars because it's almost, like 60 degrees and sunny for a change. So everybody's out and about, so it might get a little bit loud. But yeah, this will be, I had to do some math. This will be my 16th joint annual meeting. I feel slightly old when I did the math, but yeah, I joined in 2004 and I went to my first joint annual meeting in 2006 in Chicago. So, and I have not stopped going since then. So Stephanie, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, everyone. So I am Stephanie Mabry. I also live in Michigan. I grew up in a small farm town just south of Grand Rapids. So I'm not necessarily an expert on Grand Rapids proper, but some of the more interesting outlying experiences in the surrounding area, if you're planning to come in early a few days or stay a few days later, there are theme parks. There is a huge Dutch community with authentic Dutch artisans. So a lot of stuff around that area. I now live in the Detroit area. And so I also am the political action committee chair for ASCLS. And so also aspects of governance that might be happening at the joint annual meeting, I also can answer questions about.
Hey guys, so I'll go next since I think I'm the last panelist to introduce myself. My name is Karrie Hovis, and I'm serving this year as the chair of the annual meeting steering committee. I have been attending ASCLS meetings since my first one in 1997. Wow, that seems so long ago. I will admit that I have not attended them consecutively every single year, but I'm up to the point where they are too many to count at this point. But I'm very excited about this year's joint annual meeting. Of course, we'll be hosting a great program with our partners AGT and SAFMLS, and looking forward to some really great education opportunities, networking opportunities, and just vendor experiences. So it's going to be a great time, and looking forward to sharing the meeting with others tonight.
Excellent.
So you mentioned, oh, sorry, too many to count. I had to actually count when I got asked the question on my registration, how many have you been to? And so this will be my 11th. So I feel like I'm getting up there too.
That's good. You guys like it so much that you have to come back. That's the important part, right? So as I put in the chat, you can go ahead and drop questions in the chat. It is a small group here tonight. So if you also would prefer to raise your hand using the raise your hand, we'll monitor those people as well. So feel free to drop things in chat and then also raise your hand. So Karrie, I'm going to pick on you first. I hope you don't mind. Let's talk about the content because you did talk about some good sessions coming up. I know that we have a different mix because we have different host organizations doing this. So what can we expect in terms of content? What's my must-sees?
So I will say, Andrea, you guys came back from the Michigan meeting with some great suggestions on speakers, I have to admit. We heard quite a bit. And one of our speakers that spoke at the Michigan meeting will also be speaking at the annual meeting as well and talking about cannabinoids. Am I saying that correctly?
Cannabinoids.
Cannabinoids. Thank you. There's always I think that's gonna be this word, the year for the word for this year, right? There's always one that we have. So anyway, so we have some great, that's just one example of a speaker. We've also got some great opening and closing keynote speakers. I know that the staff is, we're working closely with the staff to get those lined up. And I think for those particular sessions, the committee thought that, it's been a kind of a rough 2 years for the laboratory, as we're all seeing and feeling. And so they felt like maybe some motivational and some soft skills speakers for those particular sessions were needed. So we're looking forward to really kind of getting hyped up in the beginning and hyped up on our way out as well. But in the meantime, having some great content that comes along there. So lots of great scientific sessions. I was just on an email chain today with one of the speakers from that SAFMLS has secured for one of the plenary sessions. And of course, we'll be also talking I know there's going to be some forums that will be discussed or some panels that will be discussed, so there's just going to be a lot of different formats, a lot of different sessions, not just necessarily the same old, where you go in and you sit and listen to somebody give a lecture, although there will be plenty of those as well, but hopefully some that will really engage our attendees and generate some conversation. We had a great response to the call for proposals and are really excited about the sessions that were selected.
I agree. And actually, I'll say that we're fortunate enough. We have Dana on here, and I know Dana's speaking, and she's going to talk about modernizing your laboratory science program. So Amanda's question is, do you have any events or presentations in mind that would be geared towards students or recent graduates? So I'll turn this over to the committee because it kind of, I think that there's a lot of presentations that can be geared towards students and recent grads, but I'll turn this over to the panelists to see if they have any thoughts on that. Of course, so
guys, I should
probably say that Rachel Nasimbwa is actually on too, and she's our Developing Professionals Forum chair, and she actually will be running the Developing Professionals Forum meeting, and that's going to be on Sunday night. So watch for that, watch for emails about that. Rachel, I didn't forget about you, but go ahead, Karrie.
Fantastic. And I was going to say, there's also one thing that I did forget to mention is that there's going to be some workshops that are offered also on Monday morning. Now they are an extra expense, but I know that I'll be participating in the molecular workshop, for example. I know that these were offered last year as well, and they're just some great, it's just some great, great knowledge there. But back to Rachel's question about the students. So do we have sessions that are specific are specific for students and that say student forum in them particularly? No. They're not specifically for students, but there are so many sessions that are on general topics and discuss things that are around that the students would definitely benefit from, and especially, being new in the workplace. All right, and my other committee members, because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what this might be.
I know, that's what I was trying. I'm like, it's been a while since we've looked at the spreadsheet, but I think what I'm kind of excited for, and I think if I was even a new student or new graduate, is some of the SAFMLS presentations where you get to see, blood banking in the military versus the hospital. I mean, I think those are going to be very interesting just to see a different perspective of how things are ran and done. And there's a lot of very cool stuff that I think they're going to be presenting that, I don't know, we got drones. I'm pretty sure we've got drones and blood transfusions. So, I mean, I think there's just kind of that adrenaline techie kind of stuff that we don't really get to see that people are doing, in the real world that the military is using. So I think there's a lot of really fun and interesting things for students to go to. Like Karrie was saying, there's, different levels. You're going to have some basic general topics and some more advanced stuff, and you're just going to look around at what interests you. And I would encourage you, to go to one of those maybe a little bit above your head presentations, because sometimes they're really fun where you're just like, I don't think I know this. And you go in and you come out and you learn a couple things, because you may not have an opportunity to see some of these very high level speakers locally. So, kind of just look at that program and see whatever interests you and just jump right in and go, see it. And again, I think we're still going to offer a lot of these sessions virtually. So if you didn't like that one, just go watch another one when you have time.
Another thing that comes to my mind was we were discussing some panels. Need to jog my memory a little bit, but there were some panels where you can kind of see different avenues and different routes that you can take with MLS. And I think that'd be a great thing for students to see, just to see all of the variety of things you can do with this degree. But I think that they did a nice job choosing a variety of difficulty levels, or I guess complexity. So there's lots of entry level and some really advanced topics as well. But like Kim said, I think it's kind of a cool experience to see some of those things that you might not learn otherwise, that are above the level of what you learned in school, because you're learning so much at that time. I think that once you kind of have been working a year or two, have a little bit under your belt, that you'll be surprised what you do understand.
So I will admit that I just saw the question come through about stretch breaks. Just so you know, Jessica Wallace is actually on the committee, and we've already confirmed. I think yoga might have been one of the first things that we confirmed, maybe even before we started talking education sessions. It was a huge hit. Everybody loved it. But yeah, stretch breaks will be back.
Stephanie, did you have anything to add to this question?
I have to admit, I just downloaded the program yesterday, so I'm not on the planning committee for those who are attending. So I didn't get a chance to look real thoroughly at all the sessions, but really just echoing what everybody else said. I know when I first started going to meetings as a student, my first state meeting was as a junior, so I had just dipped my toe into MLS classes. And I actually tended to avoid the things that were marketed just for students, because I kind of liked that I was a peer at this event. I could come to this event and I was a professional, and I didn't have to retain my student status or my I'm new status. I was on an equal footing with everybody, and that's something that I've always enjoyed about ASCLS. And so I just echo what everybody else said. Just find the session that's interesting to you, regardless of if it says introduction or review, or if it is a high complexity. If it sounds interesting to you and it's high complexity, go, enjoy it and learn something.
Stephanie made a great point there, that in school you learn what you have to learn, and this is an opportunity to choose things that you're interested in. So just pick the sessions that look cool, look interesting. They pick a lot of, all of these sessions were chosen because they are interesting or might interest people. So yeah, I would say just pick what is interesting to you. Don't worry too much about that complexity.
Kim,
Well,
I know, go ahead. Sorry, Karrie, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, tacking on to what Dana was saying, that, we also look at the feedback from the years before when we get those evaluations, and we take that into consideration. And we hope that we do try to gear the program to what our attendees want. And, those folks who are going to be our stakeholders, they're the ones who are attending the meeting. So yeah, definitely go outside that threshold, find those sessions, because hopefully we're hoping that we hit the mark with them.
All right, and Kim, I was going to ask you, I know that there's going to be a lot of governance on the schedule. So, can anyone go to these governance sessions? What should a new person go to, from the governance side of it, since you're president-elect and might be speaking at a few of those things?
Not at all. I think, I think what I enjoyed was going to a board meeting. I didn't realize when I first joined and went to a meeting that was open, to a member to just sit in the gallery and see how the board works, see how the national organization is ran and what those discussions are. I think really now it's a very fascinating discussion because we've moved what we call our strategic discussion to the forefront of our board meeting. So instead of kind of going through the activities that have been going on since the last board meeting, we are literally looking at themes and issues and concerns from the members and really trying to tackle those discussions and to see what the board can work on, what's really in ASCLS's scope to address. So I think, take a chance and go in there. I mean, it's really fascinating. If you have never sat through a board meeting, you're going to learn a lot. The House of Delegates, for the most part, people are credentialed to go there, but you can sit in the gallery as a guest and watch that last, annual meeting. It's a little bit less discussion. There will be some by the House when things come forward to our House of Delegates to vote on. But really, the board meeting is where the bulk of the discussion and the work is done. And the House of Delegates, while we have work, a lot of times it's a lot of celebration of the last year. So, I mean, both of those things are open to anybody that, is at these meetings. I really would encourage you to attend. I think they're fascinating. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little intimidated for next year, but that's okay. I'll just kind of worry about that at the end of June.
And there will be, like I said, there's going to be a Developing Professionals Forum meeting at, right now it's scheduled for 6, and the Ascending Professionals Forum meeting is scheduled at 7. They were talking about combining that time period from 6 to 8 Sunday and doing something more together. And I hear there might be games involved. So definitely, if you like to meet new people, network a little bit on Sunday before the meeting actually starts, that's a good thing to do. Karrie, vendors, can you talk about the vendors that'll be there?
So I will tell you that I know that I will say that the staff's been working diligently about getting our industry partners secured, and there have been a tremendous amount of interest, which is so exciting. I do believe that the last I heard, there was only, we have those top spots and maybe there's only one or so that's left. For the most part, they have been secured, and which is great news. I know that all the vendors that are participating are listed on that website that I just added to the chat. And so you can see how many folks are going to be there and wanting to talk with our attendees and show the latest and greatest in technology or developments or whatever it is that their program or their organization is highlighting. So a lot of great information and really some unique packages for these particular vendors. So there'll be a lot of great information that's presented there just from industry alone.
And I'm trying to remember if we had so many interest in trucks that we are a little bit trying to figure out where to put them.
Yeah, trucks, I think, were a sore subject.
Yeah, and so one thing that I will always say is that don't think of yourself as a student or a new professional, think of yourself as a future decision maker, because people are becoming managers really fast in the laboratory now. In fact, there's actually a session about, so you're a laboratory manager, what's next? And it's geared towards early entry-level managers. And that is because you guys truly are future decision makers. So don't be afraid to go up and talk to those vendors and learn about the technologies that they're coming up with, because they want to hear from you too. So the way the meeting will be structured is going to be the governance on Sunday. Like we said, the opening keynote will begin midday on Monday. And then we'll go into all of our sessions with a reception that night. So there's plenty of social activities, plenty of time to network there. We'll have more sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday, along with our closing keynote. And then Thursday is House of Delegates. So when some people plan, they tend to plan coming in midday Sunday if they want to catch some of the governance. And if they are wanting to go to the House of Delegates, or maybe even they're serving as a delegate, they'll stay until approximately 2 o'clock on Thursday. So that's kind of the general time frame. Stephanie mentioned maybe you're coming in a couple of days early, maybe you're coming in a couple of days after. What are some options that these people can do specifically? Like what is that side of Michigan known for, Dana and Stephanie?
Ooh, I can jump in on this one. If you're making the trip and you're going to spend a little time here, I would definitely head out to the lake shore. June is beautiful here. It was snowing today, but it is beautiful in June. So I would head out to Holland or Grand Haven and check out the lake shore. I mean, we have the Great Lakes here. That's a big part of the West Michigan culture, and everybody spends a lot of time out there. So I would definitely check those out. If you're into camping or outdoorsy activities, there's a lot of hiking, places to camp near the lake shore. Holland is a really cool area. There's a lot of, that's kind of part of the Dutch community that Stephanie was maybe talking about. They have a lot of cool little shops of cute downtown. I'm gonna have to double check on this, but I think, I'm afraid to say it, but either Tuesday or Thursday nights are street performer night. So you can just walk around downtown Holland and they have street performers out while you can go shopping and eat. They have a lot of outdoor seating. So lots of cool things to do around here. Stephanie, you have anything else?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit biased because my family is Dutch, and so we're from the general Holland area. We always say wooden shoe, like to be Dutch too. So there is a lot of stuff to do in Holland if you're really kind of interested in Dutch history, which maybe that's a very unique subset, but you will not find such a niche enclave of Dutch culture other than in Holland. So Holland has the only authentic Delft pottery factory and wooden shoe factory. The tulip gardens, except most of the tulips will be out of bloom by then. Ours just actually bloomed today at our house. But there's Windmill Island Gardens that has a fully functioning Dutch windmill. So if you're really kind of interested in seeing some of that history or experiencing maybe a different culture than before, I would definitely say to check out Holland. If you're really into adventure and thrill rides, Muskegon is only about 45 minutes away from Grand Rapids, and they have Michigan Adventures, which is roller coasters and theme park rides. And that everybody kind of says it's just a smaller scale version of Cedar Point. So if you're really into new roller coasters and new adventure rides, definitely check out Muskegon. I saw that somebody had mentioned the Hot Air Balloon Festival, and I was trying to look that up. Usually that's in Battle Creek, which Battle Creek I think is about maybe an hour and 15 minutes. Dana, is that right? I know it's a little bit further east yet too, so I don't know if there's an efficient way to get there from Grand Rapids.
It's about an hour, yeah.
And
I was thinking, we do have a hot air balloon festival here. It was like near my house. I'm trying to look up when that was.
I know, I was trying to look up
probably a smaller one,
but
I've seen hot air balloons here, lots of them.
Because I still have family that owns farmland. I'm in the Kalamazoo area, and when they have those Battle Creek hot air balloon championships, they land like in my grandparents' backyard. It's kind of fascinating. So I'm not too sure on when the dates are, or if there's a separate one in Grand Rapids, but hot air balloons are really big on the west side of Michigan, so there's a good chance you'll see some. So that's kind of cool and interesting. So those are kind of the two things. If you're really coming in and you want 2 or 3 days and you want to experience something that you really can't experience anywhere else in the country, definitely Dutch culture and maybe Michigan Adventures for the roller coasters, if that's your thing, is new roller coasters.
I'll also say I'm on the host committee for the annual meeting, and we're working hard on kind of compiling all of those cool things that we know happen but don't know the exact date. So we'll have like a good list of really cool things to do that are around the time frame of the meeting. And so we're compiling that now and trying to come up with some really cool things for people to see and do while they're here.
So one thing that'll happen as we get close to the joint annual meeting is there will be some more posts in the community that Dana is likely going to post. So she'll talk about things that you can do, things that you can see, places you can eat as her role on the host committee. So she'll start posting those in the community, in the Connect community. And then the other thing that we'll have is the meeting app. So the meeting app's not ready yet, but when it is, the app will look like the double helix of the meeting logo, and it's called Lab Jam, and you'll be able to download that. And Julia, our director of marketing and communications, of course, will put out more information about that. So one of the things that I always make sure every time I go to an annual meeting is to make sure that I have the Lab Jam app. That's probably the first thing I do is download that so I can see messages, get people's contact information, and I can just see any changes in the schedule, because occasionally times changed or something gets added, and that's where your day of guide is going to be. But if you guys all, if you panelists could say like, what is the most important thing that you should bring or do when you come to an annual meeting, what is that for you guys?
Okay, I'm just going to jump in here and say it. Bring a charger for whatever electronic device that you have, because you will be using your mobile device or your computer or laptop or iPad or whatever it is that you decide to use, and you will need to charge it while you're there.
I would say, of course, I'm not the best at following this advice, comfortable shoes, because you're always going to end up doing more walking than you think you're going to be doing between the different meeting rooms and the vendors. And then my other thing that I always like to bring is snacks. I always like to make sure I have things like granola bars or pretzels, things that are shelf stable that I can just carry around in my bag with me, so that if I, get hungry, I don't have to leave the event to go find, a snack or some food. I have it with me.
Kim, how about you?
I think just, mine's not really a physical thing, but, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Have fun, don't try to do all of it, feel free to take a break. I can say that the virtual has been amazing for that. There's been times during a meeting where you kind of get just a little overwhelmed. And you want to just go back to your room, but you can also listen to a session while you're in your room. And so you don't really feel like you're missing out, but just realize that, you don't have to get everything, all the sessions, all the activities, do what you're comfortable with. But do go out on a ledge a little bit, meet some people. I think everybody on this panel will tell you that obviously with the number of some of us have attended, kind of once you go, you get hooked on it. And so really just, bring that to it. Just try to have the best time you can. But if you kind of get burned out a little bit and you need to take a break, take a break. It's okay. Nobody's going to judge you for how you do your conference. So just make sure you keep that in mind.
Dana, anything else?
I'll say that I'm a newer member to ASCLS, so I've only been to virtual meetings so far. So I'm really excited to go to one in person. But even on the virtual side, I feel like you can have a great experience, and that app is super helpful. And whether you're in person or at home, I would have just like a little something to write on, because I just feel like I always, when I listen to these educational sessions or when I've gone to other conferences, you just hear tidbits and you're like, oh, I want to remember that. And this might just be me, but if I don't write it down, I'm not going to remember it later. So I feel like I always come up with cool ideas or learn something. Well, there's lots of learning going on, but things that I want to remember. So I always have a little notepad with me.
That's great advice too. And actually that is going to be another thing. The jam kits will be back. So there will be some notebooks in the kit that we give attendees when they come, because we all feel that that's very important actually to write those things down. One thing I'll also say about the accommodations, so the hotel that you're staying in, my personal experience has always been to stay in the meeting hotel. And I understand that sometimes financially not everyone can stay in the meeting hotel, especially when you're, early on. So there's a couple of things I want to mention. So the first thing I'm going to mention is I'm going to drop a link in the chat to the JAM scholarships. So those are eligible. Anyone who is a developing professional or ascending professional is eligible for those. You have to be a member, of course, to be able to. That's the number one thing. But it's ASCLS.org/JAM scholarships, JAM-scholarship. -scholarships. So go to that website, apply for one of those travel scholarships, and you never know, you might get part of your registration or maybe even a little extra paid for. So that'll help offset that cost of that hotel. But it will do you a disservice to be too far from the hotel. You will miss a lot. It will become annoying. You'll want to stay in at the reception on Monday night when everybody's having a good time. You're going to want to stay there, but maybe you rented an Airbnb across town. It's doable. But you do miss out on a lot. So I always tend to put convenience as one of my number one priorities. You don't have to, it's a personal choice, of course, but try to get one of those JAM scholarships, and you might just get a little bit extra and you'll be able to do that. Grand Rapids actually has a lot of hotels downtown though, too. I will say that. The JW Marriott is right across the street. I think, Dana, what else is down there? Like a Courtyard,
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
One thing that came to mind is there's a Homewood Suites, and it's like a 4-minute walk. I just looked it up, literally 4-minute walk. It's about 0.2 miles away. And it's one of those where it has multiple bedrooms in a suite if you have like a group of friends that's going. And a kitchen. So that might be a way to save money, but be pretty close to the proximity of the meeting. So that would be a good option. But like she said, there are so many hotels downtown and they're all really new. So you really can't go wrong. There's not really, they've all been built in the last, okay, except for the Amway. The Amway has been there forever. It's so cool. It's a very old, historic, like lavish hotel. It's very cool.
Yeah.
A lot of the surrounding hotels are brand new, so they're pretty nice. The Courtyard, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing that the Amway Grand is a historic and beautiful hotel. I like that hotel.
It's very unique too. It's really cool. I mean, you'll get a lot of cool pictures in there. There's just like gilded gold and like lavish fountains and chandeliers. Like it's very, very posh. I don't know.
It is.
It's really cool to see. Makes you feel fancy.
It is. One thing though, when we did our site visit, the room was so beautiful, but because it's an old hotel, the bathroom was so small. But it is a beautiful hotel and definitely worth the experience. So
yes, they did finish their renovation. There's a new tower or a tower that they renovated. So I haven't seen any of the rooms, but I'm sure that they're very nice because they literally finished that a few months ago. They also added a duck bowling alley to the Amway, which I was as confused as the faces I see here, but it's like tiny pins and tiny balls. They have a bar there. So it looked very cool. I might check it out when I'm down in that area, but
they have duck pin bowling down by where I live.
oh, really? I had
yeah. They use small balls and you can basically like grip it in one hand and kind of roll it. It's kind of like a large softball size. Like they don't have finger holes in the balls. People love it. I can't say that I've ever played it. I've just watched people do it. But then there's also the speakeasy that's in the hotel, which is kind of cool. It has a balcony, so you can go out on that.
Yeah, that's a cool one. And it's called I Don't Care. So their plan was like when you and your friends are like, where should we go? And someone says, I don't care. It's an actual bar at the Amway. You used to have to like enter a code, like you had to be signed up for their mailing list and get a code sent to you in order to unlock the door to get in. I think they've done away with the code, but it's still very cool and kind of hidden in the hotel.
So one place that I will say that I think that you all should check out, and I made Julia go there when we were on our site visit, is Kilwins. So if you don't know Kilwins, Kilwins was actually started in Michigan, and they sell delicious fudge, but they're actually all over the country now. And it is my personal goal to try to go to all the Kilwins that are in all the cities that I go to. I've been to them in many different states. In fact, I just went to one in Denver when we were at CLEC. But Kilwins is actually right across the street from the Amway Grand. So if you like delicious ice cream, fudge, or confections, you should definitely check that out.
I concur that Kilwins is delicious. Definitely try their turtles too. Those are good.
Oh yeah, yep. And the tasting of the fudge is free.
Free is good. I did find the information about the air show in Battle Creek. The Battle Creek Air Show and hot air balloon demonstrations are June 30 to July 1. So on the back end of the meeting, and that's in Battle Creek. So about an hour away. So you could drive back and forth. They'll have a lot of Air Force demonstrations and Navy demonstrations of all the different fighter jets and all those demonstrations. They have skydiving, they do skywriting. They have all kinds of things. So if you're really into aircraft, I guess that's another thing kind of that Michigan is sort of known for, except we don't think about being known for it, is aircraft and flight and aviation. Western Michigan in Kalamazoo, a little bit south of Grand Rapids, has one of the few aeronautic engineering programs. And so a lot of aircraft demonstrations and shows. So there is one in Battle Creek on the back end of the meeting.
Yeah, so you could plan that into your trip. I love it.
So if I could circle back a little bit to the meeting program, I know that there was a question asked earlier about student activities, and this is not a student activity per se, but it is something that I wanted to mention. You know, we have poster presentations at the meeting, and they're in digital format, but we have students who will be presenting their posters at the meeting. So that's always it's just always something to encourage other students to check out and to see are the digital poster presentations that'll be going on, because it's different research that people have done and that they're displaying for others to view and to read.
All right, so I'm actually going to turn this over to Cheyenne real quick. I see that she joined. We had a time change issue a little bit tonight. Sorry, I just called you out, Cheyenne. That's rather rude of me. But why don't you go ahead and say any last things that you think that the ascending professionals and developing professionals should know? And I'm actually going to have you do the same, Rachel, if you're willing to. So Cheyenne and Rachel, any parting wisdom?
Yes, sorry about that. I just drove up to West Virginia from Louisiana, so I thought everything was in Central Time Zone and I got all mixed up. But anyways, the main thing I think I have to say for ascending professionals is this is definitely an experience that is unique and always, like, I think worth your time to network and like meet all the different people in the laboratory profession. You get to see a lot of different career paths and like different paths other people have taken. Definitely apply for the JAM scholarships. And if you are having a harder time finding a place to stay, like if you really don't want to stay in the hotel, I have not stayed in the hotel before, and I have stayed in the host hotel. I've done both. And I will say, while it can be cheaper to stay outside of the hotel, that convenience thing really does make a difference, especially when you're networking and meeting people and taking time to, hang out with others. It definitely puts some strain on that. And then you'll also spend money on like Ubers and stuff because you don't want to be leaving late at night. So reach out in an open forum and see if there's anyone who might need roommates or anything like that, or reach out to any of us and we can try to help you find roommates. But definitely apply for the scholarships. And I think that's all I have to say, unless y'all have any questions.
Rachel, was there anything else that you wanted to add as the Developing Professionals Chair?
No, thank you.
I know I put you on the spot. Sorry about that. Rachel, the Developing Professionals Forum Chair, is actually lives in Michigan too. So we're very fortunate to have a strong Michigan contingency, not just here on in this meeting, but also at the Jam. There's going to be a lot of people. Networking is key, as everyone has said. Anyone else have anything that they would like to share before we part tonight?
Yes, we hope to see everybody join us in Michigan. And if you're not able to join us live, hopefully you'll be there online and be able to at least experience the event virtually.
Emily had asked a question about becoming more of a participant and less of an observer. And I think, for me, at least as the stereotypical laboratorian, I didn't want to talk at all, ever, to anybody. And so I would say just don't be afraid to go to a social reception and somebody that you saw maybe speaking or moderating a session, you can go up to the speaker and say, hey, I really enjoyed your session. And sometimes that helps facilitate a conversation. If you have a question in a session, ask it, because maybe other people have that same question and they'll come up to you at a reception and, oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. And so I think it's just getting over that hump of being nervous to put yourself out there and know that nobody is going to think any less of you because you asked a question. And that's something that I realized sort of probably 2 or 3 meetings in, that, hey, I could just walk up to somebody and say hi and start talking to them and they'll talk back, because they also don't want to reach out, but they also want to be a participant. And so if just one of the 2 sides breaks the ice, it becomes very easy from then on. So that would be, I guess, my advice for that question and just in general.
And I want to add to Stephanie's. I think part of the problem with the joint annual meeting is that it's a lot of what I think, we often say is family. They're friends that we've seen, this is when we see them throughout the year. So you're going to see a lot of people very excited to see each other. Don't be afraid to still talk to those people. I think sometimes that can be a bit intimidating, that there might be a couple groups that, seem to kind of be hanging out. Don't be afraid to come and introduce yourself into a group, because we're all there to meet other people. I mean, the reason that we go and develop these relationships is because we want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us. And so don't ever feel intimidated. I mean, I know Cheyenne and I had a conversation. She said I was intimidated, and I was shocked because I thought I'm not, but I want to meet people too. So, I mean, just come up, introduce yourself, say hi, don't worry about it. But I think that's the big thing. I think that's how you participate, is just, when you're sitting next to somebody in a session, start up a conversation. You'd be surprised who's sitting next to you and what their interests may be, and you might just find out your new network. Also, social media. You'll be surprised how many of us got to know each other by social media. We talked a lot on Twitter or elsewhere, and then went to a meeting and was like, hey, I can meet you now in person.
Well, and I kind of to echo what Kim said earlier on in this meeting, was go to the governance sessions. Sit in the gallery and watch a board meeting, sit in the gallery and watch a House of Delegates meeting. If a committee is meeting one evening and you want to know more about that committee, and sit in, because that was really how I started getting involved, was I just sat and watched meetings to learn what different committees were doing. And that's also a way to participate in a different way. It's still sort of observing, but it's also participating. It's kind of this happy medium of both. And so don't be afraid to go to those meetings that you think might be reserved for certain people, because oftentimes they're not. So especially things like the board meeting or the House of Delegates.
And I know that OG would be upset if I did not say this, because I see she's on tonight too, that the Diversity Advocacy Council also has a meeting, and they like to solicit ideas for their PRISM event that they hold in January, and they'll have a diversity book club that they'll be unveiling. So if that's something that interests you, and maybe you're interested in, OG is a fabulous human being, so maybe you're interested in meeting OG. I know she'll be there, so you could come meet her and she'll talk to you. All right. Well, with that, thank you all for coming. Don't forget to go to labgym.org to check out more information about the meeting. Check out the JAM scholarships, which you can find on our website. You can always email me as staff, Andrea H, ANDREAH @ASCLS.org if you want more info, and I will direct you to the right person. Thank you, panelists, for coming. We appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone.